Good evening, everybody, and thank you very much for coming to listen to my talk this evening. I am very pleased to be presenting to you something what I consider to be a very new and different approach to astrology. So I've published a book that it took me about 5 years to work to develop a concept, and I think what I'll do actually is I'm just going to dive into my PowerPoint, okay, and we'll start with that. That's probably the best way to do this. So can you see a screen with the, yeah, you can. Excellent. Okay. So my book is called The Divine Order, which actually, if you've ever done any sort of traditional astrology, you'll understand that as a meaning to it, which will reveal to you more about the book. But The Divine Order it is. And so here's some of the topics I'm going to cover tonight. I'm going to show you what so this is actually about really quite advanced. We're going to evolve quite quickly, I hope, tonight into what I believe we need is Pluto in Aquarius. Okay, Pluto going into Aquarius is going to revolutionize astrology, and I believe it's something that we need to do because, as I was just mentioning earlier, we seem to be at a point where astrology needs a whole, in my view anyway, needs a whole new reckoning, a whole new sense of a revival or rejuvenation or regeneration into something that's going to make it give it a new approach. So I'm going to show you tonight a few experiments that are for you to do. So these are what I call self-evident experiments. So you're going to be sitting there, listening to my talk, and I'm going to say, try this, try that. And you're going to understand what I show you, how that fits into the chart and how that fits into astrology. And they are basically kind of like enlightenment experiments. Okay, so we're going to look at some of those, and it's quite, I think you're going to be pretty interested by and then take it in perspective of understanding your own chart. So so basically, I'll read these points to you to give you an idea. So we're going to do a thing called the all-seeing eye experiment, and which will give us a shift of perception to see how the ancients saw. So we're going to be going back to how the world used to see things. Okay, so how humanity used to be able to see the world and understand their place in the world. So this is a geocentric view. And we're shifting. I'm going to show you how to shift to the geocentric viewpoint, but then as we are now in the 21st century, we're going to be bringing it to what I call the humanocentric view. And as a result of that, this is actually what I believe to be the third eye, the opening of the third eye. So and it's you'll understand. I'll explain that when we get to it. Okay, but it's an experiment, and I think you're going to really enjoy it. So the part of the key of what my whole concept hinges on is the definition between primary motion and secondary motion in the chart. Okay, so that's what I'm going to explain to you tonight. And there's a choice to be in two states using our will: first person awareness or third person consciousness. So the primary motion is awareness and the secondary motion is conscious, and I'm going to show you that in the chart. So I'll easy step-by-step guide to explaining how that works. And when we've done that, we're then going to rediscover the ascendant, which is the rising sign, which is of course thoughts arising, and I'll explain that when we get to it as well. So the popular uptake of, say, what we call Christ consciousness or the rising into our divine nature can also occur through understanding the chart. So the real meaning of a transit, when the understanding of the primum mobile or the unmoved mover is awoken. For this, I'm going to make a quick reference to people like Dante, a little bit towards Shakespeare, but the idea of what a transit is also going to be revealed to you today. And then, in a kind of new agey kind of way, I'm saying Pluto in Aquarius is in fact the Great Awakening, because, people tend to be, they call it the 3D, we're in 3D, and then, but you go to, say, psychic fairs, and there's full of people talking about aspiring to be 4D or help us go to 5D. And what does all that mean? Why are people saying things like this? Well, I'm going to show you some techniques that actually help you to realize what those people are talking about in a way, and it's for astrologers to then take that and then bring it to those people who haven't discovered astrology yet. So what I'm trying to show you is something that's new and different, that will or rediscovered, that will then help you to realize how you can bring in all those people who talk in very spiritually, channelers, mediums, psychics, and things, but don't do astrology. People who don't do astrology can now be brought closer towards this understanding. And when they see these experiments, they're gonna. I've tried them already at Psychic Fairs, and people really like what I'm about to show you. So, okay. So what set me off? Well, I was with this whole thing. I saw a Robert Zoller quote. So he's one of the big traditional astrologers in America. He's unfortunately not with us anymore, but he had a quote that I happened to read a while back, where he said, "The complete study of astrology, therefore, consists of not merely digging up the writings of the ancients and assiduously studying them, but penetrating their inner meaning and rediscovering their perceptual mode. We must ultimately see the world as the ancients did if we are to understand their metaphysics." Now, of course, astrology is the greatest of the metaphysical arts, is without a doubt, you know. But what's this idea of perception? What is the perceptual mode? And that got me thinking, and it led to this. So about a few years ago, I saw this, and it's led to the development of what I've got, okay, to show you. So let's have a think about, what to perceive is. If you look at the dictionary definition, you're looking at perception, or to perceive is to become aware of, or to gain knowledge of, or to come to know by direct experience. That comes from the Latin percipere, to grasp with the mind and to comprehend. Now, in our astrological history, there was a very big shift in perceptual mode already happened. And that was several centuries ago. And that changed everything. And that was Copernicus, when he said, well, Earth is not at the center of the universe. And in fact, we're going around the sun. Now, I'm not here to say, to denigrate science in any way. It's fairly obvious that planets are going around the sun. But from our personal perspective, from each of our own perspectives of our own lives, from taking just ourselves, then the world goes around me like it does go around you. You're at the center of your own world. And this is why the Greek philosophers, this is why they developed the geocentric system, because anyway, I'll explain a bit more. I'll just keep going to get to the stuff. I'm expanding it all the time. So Pluto going into Aquarius. Let's have a look at some Aquarian things to get us sort of ready for what I'm going to show you. So the water of emotions that flows through the rationality and thought processes of air element, Aquarius, the world beyond the veil of the physical world, the cosmic energy that is actualized into specific patterns of thought. So it's about gaining objectivity, perspective, again, perception, perspective, and a reflective approach. The air sign Aquarius links to the breath of life and prana and pneuma. Pneuma being the Greek philosophy form of prana. So in prana, we have India, yoga in India, and in ancient Greek and Hellenistic Greek, they had pneuma, which was, again, the idea of the breath of life. So we have a change of perception, okay, is found by looking at some of these Aquarian words: unconventionality, innovation, uniqueness, unusual, inventive, original, intellectual, scientific, humanitarian, freedom-loving, to be attuned to the universal will, could be called the divine order, revolutionary. Okay, so these are all sort of things that I'm hoping that you'll see that I'm showing you tonight. Okay, that can create a revolution in understanding the difference between awareness and consciousness, so that we can see the divinity in ourselves. The divinity is in us all the time. We are in the creation right now. Okay, and I'm going to show you that as we go along. Okay. Just a few words here to help put it a little bit more about what I'm going to show you this evening. So to enlighten is to remove the dimness or blindness from one's eyes or heart. From the 1660s is to supply with intellectual light, but also to put light in Old English from the 1580s. To shed light upon is from the 1610s. And what I'm going to show you is techniques of light. So what I'm actually going to show you is to understand your perception of light and how you receive light and how you understand light. And it's in fact incredibly simple. And when you get it, it's pretty wow. So I'm really looking forward to showing you these techniques. But I'm showing you with regards to how they fit into the chart. Okay. And this is what I think is the most important thing here, because I'm talking to astrologers tonight, and I'm an astrologer. We're talking astrology here. I could show this to anybody with regards to just saying, here's some techniques, but I'm showing you how it fits with astrology. So as you see here, we had the idea of supplying with intellectual light. So let's look at the word intellectual, which is grasped by the understanding rather than by the senses. So we're looking at something that you get an understanding of something. In Latin, intellectualis is relating to the understanding. It's the discernment or the understanding. So you're getting the idea. I'm going to try and show you something that's an understanding as a discernment. Which brings us to lucidity, which is a form of light or brightness, from the French lucidité, lucidus, light, bright and clear, to shine, to light and brightness. So basically, we're looking at this idea of intellectual clarity connected to lucidity, transparency of expression. So these are just a few ideas to give you, start opening up the idea of what I'm going to try and show you. And my whole book is based on this next slide. So there it is. What you're looking at here is actually an image from the 1530s by a chap called Peter Appian. But it's Aristotle's and Plato's cosmology. So this is the Aristotelian cosmology, and it goes back to Plato and Aristotle. So we're looking at 300 BC. And it was kept as the way the world was up until Newton published Principia in 1687, at which point the rational objective science viewpoint took over. But Copernicus was the first to challenge this with his theory of heliocentricity. So what we're looking at here is the geocentric view of the world. And what you can see is the world is at the center, and around it is going all the planets plus other spheres. So this image is the medieval cosmology. And this was how humanity saw the world for 2,000 years. So what we're looking at here is the idea of the medieval conception of a model of the world. It's a model. So everything was synthesized to this model. Everything that we know about in our history, so in music, in literature, in architecture, like think of the cathedrals, think of everything. Everything was built around the model, okay, of the geocentric model. And so all astrologers, right up until Newton, used to think with this model. This is how they saw the world. This is how the world was seen. This was the only way to see it. In fact, actually, the Vatican threatened people, used to, they were very strict about it all. They would be like, that's the way to see it, and you don't see it anywhere else. That's it. They would hound people down if people tried to say something different. So basically, what you have to understand, this medieval synthesis, is the whole organization of the ancient world, of humanity's development for 2,000 years, was based around this model. So theology, science, history, it was a single, complex, harmonious, mental model of the universe. So this is the mental model, right? So this is how the imagination can be constructed. So this is why I'm showing you this today, because from an astrological point of view, there is a system here by which we can understand our place in the world. So it's actually a mental model. So this is the imagination can really take over with this. So it becomes incredibly like a journey. Okay, so I'm going to show you the journey that we can take through this model. And so when the ancients, and I refer to the ancients as humanity for more than 2,000 years, when they looked into the night sky, they had a perception that they were looking upwards and inwards into a vast dance of life. Okay, if you went back to the 14th century now and stood outside in the night sky and looked up, and there were some other people with you, they would all be referring to things like the idea of the crystalline night or the crystalline spheres, because we're in this world full of variation and change, but the heavens were considered to be full of song, light, and life. So the heavens above, yeah? Oh, heavens above, they say, you know? And modern scientists of late have convinced us to view the universe as a cold expanse, where life is a rare exception. It's all about vacuums and darkness and deep space and this and this. And because they discarded this medieval model. This is a beautiful image. And this is how humanity used to see the world and themselves, at the center of the beautiful image. They were at the center of the image. And I'm about to explain this to you in more detail. So today we get the idea of explaining the universe in terms of mathematical equations, but that doesn't really get us any closer to understanding what the universe is. Okay, so we're kind of in the space that we are in. You know, we're told many different things, but it's largely been forgotten what the space we are in. Now, of course, when we look at an astrology chart, we're talking about deep inner space, you know, space. There's this map we look at, and it's like, well, it's full of space. It's full of planets and the solar system, outer space, and even further things with fixed stars, and you know, it encompasses the whole universe there, you know, but what's happening? What's actually happening? Well, what I'm going to show you tonight is I'm going to show you how to see the chart as a tool to get your enlightenment, but then to see the chart as a system, to reintroduce this perfect medieval model, which is a beautiful, enlightening, and divine experience. What you're looking at there is the divine order. That's it. That image is called the divine order. And by the way, the Latin around the edges, roughly translated, is it is the house of God, and all of the elect are sort of in the empyrean of the sky, something on the lines of that. That's a kind of rough translation of it. So it's so that God lives outside of the outermost sphere, or the creator. So you can call it whatever you like, really, can't you? You know, whatever our belief system is, but you can say the creator lives at the outermost sphere on the edge. And then there's several different things, which I'm going to talk a little bit more as we go along. Okay, so firstly, this is a quick diagram to remind you of what the geocentric view was like. So literally, people would stand on planet Earth and they'd look out and they'd see these spheres of light, all interlocking crystalline spheres, with the planets all moving along them as little lights or reflected back, and that's how that model was. You know, so that model there is, as you can see here, Earth at the center, which I'll explain a bit more in a minute, and then you have Moon, Mercury, Venus, Sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. That's the divine order, and that's the 7 days of the week as well. 7 visible planets marking the 7 days of the week. So it shows you an order through time. Then we have the firmament of the zodiac signs made up of the fixed stars. We have the crystalline heaven, which I believe I'm going to do a lot more on that in my next books, but oh, hang on. And then we have primum mobile, which is the first movement. So that's when the creator spins the spheres, and Dante makes reference to that in the Paradise, the very last verse, and the last canto of the Paradise. It refers to the love of the love of God who turns the spheres, that turns everything else. And that's the primum mobile. But I'll get back to that again. I'll be talking about this a bit later. So we have this beautiful divine order surrounding us. We are in the middle of it. Each of us, each person is in the middle of a divine order that surrounds us, and it's a mental model of the universe. So it's an imagined model. It's the imago, as the ancient Greeks would call it, which is the recalling of an image. If I say to you now, white crystalline sand, tropical beach, palm trees, clear blue water, you can see it in your mind's eye. Okay, so that's your imago is bringing something up. But I could also say massive elephant, pink elephant in the middle of the room, and you might have a glimpse of that as well. So it's the idea that what's recalled into the mind is that there's an image there. There's the imago, the imagination. So this is the mental model that when used correctly can bring us an extreme and perfect link to the divine experience of linking at once with the divine, and that's what I'm going to show you today. So there's the geocentric viewpoint. And now in ancient times, you see, people would go to their sacred places. They go to their temples, they'd go to their cathedrals or their sacred stone circles, the megalithic stone circles. They'd go and they'd look at the sky and they'd be inside the sky. They were in the sky. They were part of the sky. They were in it. Because we are in it, aren't we? If I go and walk my dog now down to the park, I can stand in the middle of the park and I can look up to the sky, and I'm in the sky. I'm actually in it. It surrounds us. We're inside a sky dome of some kind, because it feels like there's a vastness around it, and we're in the middle of it. So this is how humanity saw this for 2,000 years. Okay, and it's only the last 400 years that we've been told anything different. Yeah, and so what I think is important to understand here is that how they saw this was that everything the mental model was to be that there was perfection in it, because everything had its right place. Everything had its home, or the region that suited it the best. And if not forcibly put in one place or another, it moved sort of hither and thither by a sort of homing instinct. So what we've got here is the idea of things like 4 elements, modalities, and everything is all interwoven into it. To start talking like this tonight would be far too. I could only fit in, I've only got like 90 minutes or something. So, but the point is that this model everything just goes, it kind of moves and finds itself again each time. So if you imagine that the central spherical Earth, upon which we are standing, is surrounded by a series of hollow and transparent globes, and these are called the spheres, or the heavens. And the 7 heavens are transparent, crystalline, concentric, nested, and interlocking spheres. And it's a model. And everything falls back into its natural place. So fixed inside each of the spheres is a luminous body, be it the moon, the sun, or a reflection of the other visible planets. And starting from the Earth, where we are now, we're standing on Earth. And the order is the moon, Mercury, Venus, the sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. The 7 planets. Beyond the sphere of Saturn is the stellatum, which resembles stars, pointed or radiated, sparkling stars, which are like the emblems of a star. So we have the symbols of stars, and we call people stars, rock stars, film stars, Eurostar, arranged like rays or radii, and they are called the fixed stars. Beyond the stellatum, there is a sphere called the first movable, or primum mobile. Okay, so that's the first movement, primum mobile. And its existence was inferred to account for the motions of the other spheres. So all motion moved in order from the top to the bottom. So when a soul was coming in for incarnation, it started with Saturn. It moved through the spheres to Saturn. and then moving down. So that's the dream of Scipio, which is it described as the idea of the soul incarnating into the human body. And we went down from God to the prima mobile to the stellatum to each of the lower spheres. But when we're on Earth, we're wanting to reach the Creator again. So just by our whole nature of experience of life, we're reaching outwards. So once we're born into the sublunary sphere, once we're born under this influence of the moon, we're in the sublunary sphere, and then we're moving outwards from that in our lives. And this is what I'm going to talk about, and that's what's very much in my book. This is a guide to understanding yourself better through moving back out through your spheres in order to reach your divinity. So my book says the tagline on my book is rediscover the lost secrets of the planets to restore your place in the universe and release your creative genius. And that is what this is all about. So I'm hoping that I'm showing you some interesting things, to change your perception. So the spheres transmit their influence to Earth, and when, which is astrology, when within the medieval mind, the universe was finite, so that it was a perfect spherical shape containing within itself an ordered variety. So everything was perfect, and things didn't change past the moon. So the moon being that first sphere, we are inside the sublunar sphere. We're on Earth inside sublunar sphere, and beyond it, everything was perfect and didn't change. Underneath the moon, everything is contingent and changeable, which is why we have the moon phases and why we are always changing in our own expression. You know, our moods, emotions, feelings, everything's always changing and flowing around inside the sublunar sphere. So while a modern mind might gaze into the sky and interpret vast nothingness or vacuum or darkness, a person living within the Middle Ages would be able to admire it as one might admire grand architecture. So think of how did they build those incredible cathedrals? They had the perfect model in their mind. And so the modern astronomy today can arouse even a sense of bewilderment or vagueness because it encourages a vast nothingness. Oh yes, there's nothing out there. Well, because there's no model anymore. There's no perfect model of divinity. It's all got lost. And so to round this part of the talk to this point, the geocentric spheres present us with an object in which the mind can rest, overwhelming in its greatness, but satisfying in its harmony. So this is like a meditation tool, this particular image, and you've probably seen it around before in various different sort of mystical books and things, but that is actually a meditation because the mind rests in the vastness of the perfection of God's work, of the Creator's creation. And tonight I'm going to show you this, and we're going to put that in context to the chart. And so the idea is that the spheres, we can rest, we can have the vastness of creation around us and be calmly at rest and observe it in a beautiful sense of oneness and unity. And that's what I'm going to show you tonight, because I'm going to show you the techniques to instantly find your bliss by observing yourself inside the spheres. So I'll carry on. Geocentric model. So we've now got an image here of the chart. Okay, so there are two types of motion we observe as we stand on planet Earth. One is clockwise, called the primary motion, and the other is counterclockwise, called the secondary motion, best described by this diagram. So when you look at your birth chart, the moment you were born, you have the four angles of the chart, which is the ascendant, the eastern horizon at birth, and the opposite point on the horizon, the descendant, western horizon. You have the midheaven, the culminating highest point of the sky, and Imam Kohli, or the nadir, which was underneath the earth when you were born, underneath your center point, should we say. So, and this sets the houses, okay? So you have the four angles, and the houses are primary motion. So what's actually going on with primary motion? Well, primary motion is the very fact that our Earth that we were born onto, that we have 2 feet on the ground, right, is turning. It rotates. It rotates once in 24 hours. So that is actually primary motion. Primary motion goes around and around. So we bring in things like light and dark. It's very interesting to think that we see the sun at sunrise, the sun appears. At sunset, the sun disappears. But here's the thing: it never goes out. The sun actually is glowing, is a light all the time. And in fact, the heavenly light is going all the time. So when it's daylight, when we see daylight, we see this beautiful blue sky. Yeah, that is actually the color of the heavens. Have a think about that for a minute. It's quite a good one. Because when the sun goes out, you see the night sky, because as our turning Earth turns, we're then on the shadow side. We're on the dark side for a few hours, and we see all the stars, yeah, which are reflections. We see those stars because that's the heavenly light. The only reason it goes dark is because we're on the other side of the planet as it turns. So the heavens are actually blue. I think that's quite cool. Anyway, and so the it's like trying to running around trying to catch that moment. It's like, but anyway, primary motion is the ascendant and the descendant moving. So that's our planet turning, and that is when we were born. We take our first breath, and of course I'm going back to this. This is key to everything and to understanding the chart in the way I want to show you today. Primary motion is this idea is that the houses, right? So it's like I've entered my house. I entered my houses. I'm in my houses. I get born, and I'm in my house. I'm in the house that I'm in. Which is the life. I'm in my experience. I'm in my world. This is the world, which is around me, surrounding me. What does the house do? It surrounds us, right? We're inside, and we feel quite safe in it. Because if you take the vastness of the heavens and say my mind can rest within the center of the spheres, then you can rest inside your houses. Oh, it's quite nice here actually. And I can look out to my horizons. You see, I can look out and say, oh yes, there's that way, and then there's up there, and there's all these different directions. Okay, so but as you'll see in a minute, I will explain but you're getting the idea. Okay, so the 4 angles in the 12 houses are the primary motion of the chart, and the primary motion appears at birth. Our soul incarnates on, we're born into a body, we open our eyes and we're like, oh, hello world. And that's the chart. That's our birth chart. Primary motion is captured in that instant and into the chart, which makes us arrive. Now, secondary motion is the planets, the other spheres, right? The 7 spheres, all going round the counterclockwise, going around the zodiac. From our perspective on Earth, they're going around the zodiac, and that's counterclockwise. So they are extensions. They are outside of us, because actually what we're getting is we have primary motion, and primary motion keys into our 5 senses. So our sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch, and even extrasensory perception, our 6th sense, our 5 senses are keyed into the 4 angles. Yeah, very importantly, which is why I think we have ruling planets that highlight particular things in our lives. And then the outside of that is the other planets doing their dance around, is in counterclockwise motion, which is secondary motion. So as I'm about to show you, let's keep going. I'll do the next slide. So this, I'm now going to show you how we experience to be inside this primary motion. I'm just going to call it the single eye for now, because I'm going to get onto it in a minute. But these are all points of awareness that we incarnated to at birth. So now you're like, well, okay, so what's this awareness thing? Well, I'm going to show you, okay? So just see it like this, all right? That this is you standing in the middle, okay? And we've got to define what this primary motion is. there's a state of being. It's called awareness. Now, in Buddhist meditation, okay, we have this awareness, and then we have consciousness, right? So firstly, though, hang on, I'm just going to have to catch up with myself here. Yep. So I'm going to show you, firstly, though, before I go any further, I'm actually going to jump back a little bit just to tell you a bit more about this earthly center, where we're at, okay? So we're underneath the lunar sphere, right? And we've got the four contraries that give us the four elements. And so the world we are in, the bodies we inhabit are made up of four elements. So it's corporeal, materialistic, it's the form of Earth. And so again, the chart is our balance of elements. And in the sublunary world, the elements have sorted themselves out. So Earth is the heaviest. And then, so as you can see in this image here, you can see a little kind of island with a little house and some trees. And then there's a little river, and there's a pond, and then there's a lake, and then there's an ocean. And that's kind of earth and water. It's the elements of earth and water, yeah, in the center. And then we have air, which is the moving upwards and outwards. This is kind of like cloud-like, or definitely the movement of sort of an airy thing. And then we have the heating up of air, which becomes fire. So air feeds fire, and then water and earth make a very solid combination. So water and earth go inwards and downwards, air and fire go outwards and upwards. And so these are kind of like the energetic combinations that we have on earth. But encased, when we're born, our awareness is encased inside the body, as it were, and we're looking out from it. So I'm now going to show you that these some techniques to really define that. But the idea of the mental model is, again, this idea of meditating or within, to be kindly inclining. Everything has its place. So to find our center point, to find ourselves at center, and to understand the world moving around us. We are at our center all the time, okay? But we're not taught that at school. No one was taught that at school. No one has been believing or living in this state of mind for 400 years. And this is why the world is off kilter. This is why we seem to be in an upside down world, or everything seems to have gone wrong a little bit, particularly when one becomes a little bit spiritually enlightened. We look around the world and we go, God, why is the world like this? What's gone wrong? Why are we all so wrong? Why do we have massive rates of depression and all sorts of things? Why have humanity gone a bit wrong? Yeah, well, they've got a bit wrong because they lost their model. They lost their original model of awareness and consciousness, and it's time to claim it back. So claiming it back is going to create, I believe, a lot more happiness. Back to the model again, last glance before we go to showing you the five senses that this is all keyed into. There they are. And now we're going to take those and say, what's next? Well, what's next is the geocentric model again. And now I'm going to introduce the Chaldean order. So inside the Chaldean order, which is the symbol for Earth, that's is at the center. Then we have the moon, which is the fastest moving planet, Mercury, Venus, the Sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Saturn, of course, we know is slow. Basic astrology teaches us that the speed of the planets, okay? With us at the center. So my five senses bring me moon-like stuff, okay? And so my lunar responses and reactions to the world around me are from my five senses. So if I touch a hot stove, I go, ow, and I have an instant feeling, right? Pow, it's instant. I'm like, oh, ow, right? And that's a feeling that can then lead to other things like emotions and all sorts of things. So I'm just giving you a quick example, right? But the idea is that, so this is, in fact, the divine order. And I'm going to show you how to be at that center point, okay? Because okay. So in order to get to understand yourself better and know yourself better, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a few steps backwards, because I'm going to go back to this again. And I'm now going to show you it's Mercury retrograde. You'll have to excuse me. I'm trying to get it all into you, in the whole thing to you in 90 minutes. But I'm going to show you some experiments. Okay, so we're going to do the first experiment. Now, this is going to take you straight to the heart of your true nature. Okay, and this is about direct experience, and it's not about intellectual understanding. It's about experiencing what you're experiencing where you are right now. So take a moment to just sit back in your chair and relax, okay? And just think that you're not looking at Zoom, right? Just think you're in a space, maybe you're in with a group of people somewhere, or just let go of all your expectations and preconceived notions, okay, in order to receive this instruction, okay? I want you to focus on your field of vision. Might be good to look around the room a bit just to see your focus, your field of vision around you. Notice how your head is not in your field of vision. Your head's not there, is it? Because you look around, I'm in it, but I'm looking around, but my head is not there in it, in my field of vision. So you see the world, but you don't see your own head. So this absence, this space where your head should be, is in fact your doorway to recognizing your true nature. So think about it for a minute. Where you expected your head to be, there's just an open, boundless space. It's like a vast, empty sky in which everything else appears. This space is not just nothing, it is your awareness and your consciousness, and it is where all your experiences unfold. So this realization, and I will show you other experiments to back it up, but this is the first one, I'm going to show you several, is that you are not technically your thoughts, feelings, or sensations that come and go in this space. You are the space itself. Think of your chart, a vast space. It's a whole universe, and you're at the middle of it. So you are the space itself. You're clear, open, and unbounded. This is your true nature, and it's not something that is limited or defined, but something that is vast and undefinable. Well, it is definable because we see it like our charts are like a weather report. I'm going to show you the space tonight. I'm going to show you that space. We're going to practice looking at that space. And then you're going to understand why the weather is like it is, because that's the gift of astrology. It's like cloudy today. Is it sunny? Is it rainy? Is it stormy? Right? And so one could say, like in ancient times, and maybe like Tibetan Dzogchen, right? You could say that we are the sky and everything else is just the weather. The weather constantly changes, but the sky remains open, vast, and untouched. So when I said that we're at the center and the medieval model finds us at calm rest in the center, is to find your awareness at the center. When you find that, you find a beautiful place from which to exist. Now, the world is a busy, wild place out there, and no one's been doing that for 400 years. But people used to do it all the time, in everything. That's how the world was. Humanity lived in that center space right up until the scientific, rational, but objective viewpoint took over, which disenchanted the world. The disenchantment of the world has been affecting us deeply for a few hundred years now. Yeah, but we used to be all beautifully at one with the creation. Choose to be in it or not in it as you wish, as I'll show you later. You just flip from one to the other. It's first person awareness or third person consciousness. So what I'm showing you is how to come home to yourself. Home, the houses, to come back to your 4 angles, to come back to your 12 houses, to come back to yourself at center. Your primary motion is your awareness at the center. And it's not, it's a recognition of being at center. And it's not a thought or a concept, but it's a direct and immediate experience. So trust in what you've just experienced, because that's you. You've just experienced yourself as you actually, your birthright was to have that all the time. But the world didn't, the Western world particularly, didn't teach us it, right? In Hinduism, yeah, they got it. In Buddhism, yeah, they got it. You know, I mean, different, but we seem to, in the West, might have overlooked it. And so you can rest in that open awareness, okay? And it's right here and right now, yeah? But as you will see in the, life's still going to be the same, but you can choose to go first person awareness and then watch the show, watch the weather go past, which is the transits. So I'm not going to show you a couple of other experiments. We're going to do, and you need to do these experiments with me, by the way. You can't just be a bystander here. You actually do need to do these, all right? So please do follow me with the instruction, right? Because it's quite important that you do these, right? So you actually get what I'm going on about, because then you will get the most out of it, okay? So this is called the pointing experiment. You just start with a pointing finger, and I'm going to ask you to point at several things in the space that you're in right now. So you're in a room, presumably in a room, you've got a screen in front of you, but I want you to look around the room and just point at one or two things. I'll point at a window, I'm going to point at a picture on the wall, I'm going to point at a fan on the ceiling, and notice what your consciousness is doing, okay? Immediately you point to something, it comes immediately into your brain what it is, because it's already presented itself in front of you, because your senses have already taken it in anyway. You're familiar with your room, so it's already taken everything in. I know that there's my stereos over there, and that my speakers are there, and that something hangs on the back of the door over there, and there's some more pictures, and there's a chair, and then there's all these different things, and there's a picture in a box, and I know it's all there already, books, but the point being is that you're looking at what your consciousness does, okay? So so by pointing things out, the key phrase of this is where your consciousness goes, beg pardon, where your awareness goes, your consciousness grows, okay? Where awareness goes. So if I was to say, I am fully aware right now of being in this room, I'm in so I have an awareness that surrounds me. But when I point out something, my consciousness goes immediately to it, okay? So you're doing that now, I hope. You're going around pointing at various things, and you notice it's got a name, it's got a shape, it's got a color, objects. But now I want you to point at your own foot, okay? So taking your pointing finger, I want you to point at your foot and tell yourself what you're pointing at. I'm pointing at my foot, and I'm pointing at the sock that I can see on my foot. And then I want you to point to your knee and say, oh, there's my knee. Yeah, it's rounded, it's got trouser fabric on it. Okay, so I'm acknowledging to myself that I'm pointing at a part of me. And then I want you to point at the center of my torso. I'm pointing at the center of my torso, right? I'm pointing at my torso. There it is. I'm pointing at that, and it's got a jumper, right? And now I'm going to point at the space that I'm looking out of, like this, pointing back at the space I'm looking out of. Now, so far, I want you to hold your pointing finger at your own face. This is your primary motion. This is where it's at. These are like the four angles coming alive, okay? Because as you point at this, you're pointing at the space you're looking out of. Now, what happened when you were born? Yeah, you opened your eyes and you were suddenly in this huge, vast empyrean. You were in this vast space. Like, wow, what's that? It's that space you're looking out of right now. So the space you're looking out of is, in fact, the four angles. Is the ascendant, midheaven, IC, descendant, the 12 houses. It's all contained in the space you're looking out of. But there's an interface there, isn't there? Because there's the rest of the world is outside of myself. But what is that rest of the world? Well, in astrology, we have rulerships. We have the rulerships of the planets. Yeah. So, oh, that means that means that. A pen is ruled by this, so forth, right? And so that is the secondary motion of consciousness. So I was telling you to point around the room, pointing at different objects. you knew what those were. Well, if you got out your rulership books, you could say, that's ruled by that planet, that's ruled by that planet. And sometimes, more often than not, we have certain things that we really like. I decorate my room in this way because I have certain attractions, pulls, and magnetisms towards certain things. Why is that? Well, I've got, planets doing things in my chart that give me a sense of why I must have my things like I must have them. But that is the secondary motion outside of primary motion. Primary motion is that pure sense of absolute stillness that I showed you with the medieval model at the center there. You're looking at the ancient diagram, which is the medieval model of the world, and that is where at your center. So that is that when you go to your center, which is the space you're looking out of right now, then you can find that your mind can rest in the space that is. Now, in New Age and holistic things, everyone talks about quantum this and quantum that, and awakening and all sorts of things, all these different things that are banded around a lot and talked about and things. Well, this is the astrologer's quantum map. Okay, so this is because thought creates reality. So I could say, I'll pick up a pen and I'm going to write a letter to someone today. What's going to happen to that letter? Well, it's going into the quantum world. It's going into the secondary motion. Because my primary motion, my primary awareness said I had something came into my sensory field. I felt I had to do something about it. I'd do something. So I'm talking about the idea of feelings turning into emotions that turn into actions. So this is all to do with this reactivation of this mental model and using your chart and this model in order to get a lot more of an enlightened process. So to find that interface, there is an interface between awareness and consciousness. It involves taking the pointing finger, pointing back at your face, at the space that you're looking out of, pointing back at that space and saying, well, where, what is it that I'm pointing at? Well, I can't call it I call it the space, the capacity in which the whole world resides. So when I point back at this, I'm pointing at from my perspective, I'm pointing at the space that the world is within me. The whole world is within me, right? Like you, right now, the whole world is within you, okay, when you do this. But let's see, if you do this, you can do two-way pointing. So now take another finger and point outwards. You're pointing in to point out. And then you're pointing at the fact that the world is contained within your mind. Everything is contained within you when you're at your center. This is quite esoteric and powerful stuff, but this is like a form of like enlightenment as well, because it's how to see the world and to understand how to actually activate your connection to the divine. So the five senses feed in to that center point of awareness, and then we have the geocentricity of being at our center. So I've shown you, the idea of capacity being full of everything that happens within it, and this is actually seeing who you really are, because you see the boundless one at the heart of yourself, and the one in whom the world is happening. And we all share this. This is the Pluto and Aquarius bit, because we all share this. We all have that awareness. Like we all have a Mercury in our charts. We all have a Venus. We all have a Saturn. We all have the same set of potential markers or potential things that develop consciousness for us. And at center there, we all have pure awareness out of which consciousness develops. So when you start to see this awareness and you are fully, and it's around, it's within, and you're within the center, your center, it's like a crystal clear awareness. It's the crystalline heaven of that last sphere. You go past Saturn, you're in the crystalline heaven because you've actually taken it on as light. So this is just an awareness of light. And this is how the ancients, for 2,000 years, this is how Greek philosophers became enlightened. It's how Buddha, it's how the Hindus, it's how everybody does it. right? In the West, we kind of lost it a bit. We lost the information. We lost the insight. So this is designed to be very uncomplicated. It's designed to be transparent. But it's very nearer than near, because you're just pointing back at yourself. But it's with a new way of looking at things, a new way of understanding. And so we're empty of everything, yet at the same time we have capacity for everything, because we are, in fact, our true nature is just we are the primary motion, being part of humanity, standing on the planet that turns. Yeah, so we have that primary emotion is within us. If I went to sit on a meditation cushion right now, in fact, we can go and sit on a meditation cushion just like the Tibetan lamas do. They sit there for 24 hours or more. Yeah, they'll sit there, right? And what's happening is they'll look to the east. They can sit there and they can look to the eastern horizon, and they will see, without moving, all the planets rise in the east and over the top of their heads and then back down. They're equivalents of, different sort of angles and things, but everything rises all the time. So everything rises all the time. And that in Buddhism is called thoughts arising. Yeah. Why, when we meditate, we're like, God, such a busy mind, raging river, loads of stuff flowing through it all the time. It's thoughts arising. Yeah. So as stuff arises, as the four angles of our charts, which are constantly moving by transit, because we're in a world of free will, right? We're in that world where we're moving around in our free will transits. Everything moves around with us, but everything moves up and through our consciousness all the time. Oh, I must call someone. Oh, I must go to the shops. Oh, I've got to do this. I've got to do that. But consciousness constantly telling us things to do. That's thoughts arising. And but when you find your center, it's quite peaceful there. In fact, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful, peaceful place to be, or to experience life from. So I'm going to show you the next experiment. Because seeing the space here is simpler than simple. Okay. So now I'm going to ask you to do the next experiment, which is basically called the closed eyes experiment. So we've seen that you're in this space, and it's rather marvelous, I think. It's full of interesting things. When you come out from your center and you're at your center and you're looking at the world, oh my gosh, it all manifests in front of me. But now what happens when we close our eyes? So I might like you to close your eyes and keep your eyes closed for a couple of minutes while I talk to you about this next experiment. So with your eyes closed, can you ask yourself, who or what are you at this point in time? Right? Can you say, how big are you? How big am I when my eyes are closed? Well, I'm not sure, because actually I have no measurement. I just have this vastness, right, inside. Yeah, there's a vast interior space. It's infinity. It's like being in outer space. But actually, I'm in my inner space. So I'm in my inner space, which is my outer space. And it's vast, and it goes on forever, because when my eyes are closed, there's no measurement to it. And now what do scientists keep telling us? Well, outer space is this vast nothingness. Oh, yes, it's all dark. And oh, yeah, right, okay. It's a bit like when my eyes are closed. But they're trying to describe that as being out there. Whereas from the astrological perspective, we can say what happens is in here. So keeping your eyes closed, please. Keep them closed for a bit more, because I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about this. So see where you are. What do you find, and see where you're at when your eyes are closed. Let's have a look for your boundaries. Where are your boundaries? Yeah, well, seek them out. Well, yes, they're well, hang on a minute. Well, my mind is actually infinite when my eyes are closed. It kind of goes on forever. The space that I'm in, because of course I dream in there. We spend half our time with our eyes closed dreaming, and that's a whole world unto itself, right? There's a whole world appears when my eyes are closed, when I dream. But just to experiment now when I'm awake is to say, well, I'm awake, but I've got my eyes closed. Okay, so keep them closed. Just rely on what's given at this present moment, i.e. your own experience. You have to rely. This is all self-evident. So what you're experiencing. And so with your eyes closed, you could say to yourself, you could ask yourself a few questions. You could say, well, do you have a name? Do you have an age? How old are you? sure. It's like just this vast awareness. I'm a wonderful, beautiful awareness. It's infinite. It's forever. I'm an age of foreverness. Are you male or female? Well, I'm not sure because I can't, my eyes are closed. I'm alive. I'm aware. Am I in fact a human? Well, I'm not quite sure even that, because everything that has life, and in the idea of animism, everything has this wonderful, beautiful awareness. So keeping your eyes closed, keep your eyes closed to say, can you define your shape right now on the evidence that you have? Well, when my eyes are closed, I can't actually define my shape. I know I'm there because I know that I'm sitting in what could be called a chair, so I can feel the chair on me, right? Which is all that sensory field feeding back into my center. And then but I can't necessarily define my shape. I mean, I could be a skyscraper right now. Can I define with my eyes closed? Oh, well, I could be a skyscraper. Yeah, that just might be the case, but it's not, Can I close my eyes and say, how many toes have I got right now? Well, I know there's a sensation there. I have a sensation right there, but I can't necessarily count them, Is there, in fact, is your experience a boundless space with your eyes closed? Is your experience a boundless space or an infinite space of experience? Well, yes, I would say it probably is, because it's full of various sensations and thoughts and feelings. But to be in a body right now, what does that mean? Well, are you in fact as spacious now as when your eyes were open? When my eyes are closed, I'm as spacious. Am I as spacious when my eyes are open? Well, let's have a look. I'm going to open my eyes. 3, 2, 1. Wow, right. My eyes are open again. And now, is that space the same space I'm experiencing with my eyes open as they are closed? Do you notice that your experience is such that it's the same awareness? So the dreaming space is the same as the awaking space. It's the same awareness at center. You're at your center. You're at your very center. The center that you were originally born into, that you took your first breath into. When you appeared, the birth chart, the astrological birth chart, is the first breath that captures the moment that you became your body, you became yourself, and then you were named, and you given everything that you are. You just are what you are. You start developing your consciousness, but you came from pure awareness, and you came from this vastness of infinity, because we are all, astrology has its whole basis around reincarnation. Well, the reincarnation is that we are this awareness that never goes anywhere. We're in it all the time. We just take on different roles, different times we come back. We just got to find that beautiful space of being at our center. Each and every time we're at our center. And then anything manifests outside of that. That manifestation is the wonderful sort of third person consciousness. Because what I'm showing you right now is techniques to show your first person awareness. The first person awareness is I am at my center. And then when you start to move out from that, you go third person consciousness. I'm going to show you a couple of things as we go onwards. So basically, with the eyes closed, you become a formless or edgeless capacity that's filled with many things: sensations, thoughts, feelings, and sounds. When you open your eyes, measurement manifests, which is astrology, because the birth chart is the map to this awake world. It's the map that we've got to our awake world. So that's why it's the map of the soul. Okay, because it's the blueprint. It's the map of manifestation. So when you go to your center point, you then have the chart as your map of manifestation. It's like, here's my treasure map. I'm infinite. I'm an infinite soul at the vastness of all that is. And that's why at nights we dream about things that are wonderful, but we dream and we go to other spaces, but then we have our world of measurement, which is what the astrology is, because it's the measurement of the light and the space around us, the measurement of our third person consciousness. which is the secondary motion of the chart, which is the planets moving around the zodiac outside of primary motion. Primary motion is a measurement as well, of course, but the secondary motion is then extending ourselves outwards to see ourselves in the world around us, having come from that vast, beautiful space of everything, of the void or the greatness of creation at our center. So now I'm going to show you one more experiment. This is my favorite one, actually. This is you know, basically what you've got to do is you can see that you are space. Okay, that's what I've tried to show you. I'm trying to show you that we are all space, which is what the chart is. The chart shows us a map of space. And now I'm showing you space. So you can see that, you know, when your eyes are closed, you have the vastness, infinity, like what science says, outer space, dark and vast and infinite emptiness. But we go, yeah, but actually, when I close my eyes, or when I'm in that space, I'm also there as well. Yeah, but when I close my eyes, I go into that. I go into the outer space of inner space. And so when I close my eyes, I could go to that beautiful space of, it's like a meditative space, just being calm and at my center. And I can take out all the measurement of things and find a calm, nice center by just recognizing my awareness. Then I can open my eyes and it all floods in. Yeah, the creation myth. In fact, when you look at all those creation myths, how they said, like the Big Bang, see, there was darkness and blackness and an infinite space, eyes closed. And then there was a Big Bang. The Big Bang occurred. Suddenly, I opened my eyes and it went, oh. Suddenly there was a Big Bang. Whoa, gosh, look at that. Everything created around me. Ah, yes, it did. So what stays at your center, you know, is the whole universe. So it's your inner space. And now you're aware of it. It's a wonderful realization. There is a spacious capacity at your center that is as obvious with your eyes closed as with your eyes open. So welcome to this wonderful void of being, because it's beautiful. And I'm going to explain now how astrology really has got lots of this hidden in it, or not hidden in it, just waiting to be realized. Okay. So, but I'm going to show you one more experiment first, and it's called the all-seeing eye experiment. So God's eye, or the providence, the eye of providence is the, you know, the eye in the cloud, you know, type of thing. You see it in a lot of esoteric things. So I'm going to show that we can all do that, right? Because it's quite cool to do it, right? So what I'm going to do is I want you to, this is a beautiful experiment and it's really wonderful. It's my favorite one. I absolutely love doing this and I love showing people it as well, okay? Firstly is to say, I've looked at the world through my two apertures my whole life. My two eyes see the world. Yep. But I want to now see them in a new and different way. So I'm going to make a pair of binoculars like this. Please make a pair of binoculars like this, and then place them in front of your eyes like this. And yes, I agree with myself that I've always looked at the world this way. Yeah, like through my two apertures. But actually, if I spread my thumbs and fingers like this to create like a diver's mask, I'm going into the underwater world, you know, which is a very strange space to be in. No, but anyway, I open your space like this, and then bring your hands slightly to the sides like this, so you can see your fingers. Wave them like that to yourself, so you can see them on the periphery of your vision. There they are, marvelous, wonderful. Now, slightly bring them wider, okay, just a little bit wider like that. Now, bring them around the top. Like that, and you can see they go around the top there. You can just see them at the top there, and bring them back around here. And then I want you to just pull your hands back behind so they vanish. Keep going backwards with your hands so they vanish. Can you see your hands? Not when they're back there, but I am aware that my hands are there. I have an awareness. I have a sensation that my hands are there, but I can't see them. So they're out of my consciousness right now, but I'm aware that they're there. Now I'm going to bring them forwards. Bring them forwards again so you can see them. Hello, hands. Hello, fingers. Oh, there they are. Marvelous. And start to trace around that shape that they show you. There's a beautiful orb. Heard that one before? There's a lovely orb just around the edge here. Can you see the orb that you're in? There's this wonderful orb, an orb of influence. Or is it a sphere? Is it a music of the spheres? Or is it an orb of influence? Well, maybe it's both. But I'm in it. I'm in this beautiful orb around the edge here. There's an edge. I'm in fact inside or staring through a frameless window at the world. Beautiful, isn't it? I mean, wonderful. And I'm actually looking at it as a single eye. So I had the two, and then I went two eyes to see, and then the third eye became apparent, and it's the eye that I know things by. So I have two eyes to see and one eye to know. And this is my knowing eye. This is my third eye. I'm in my third eye all the time. And in fact, I've just opened it. You've just opened your third eye. That might have been the first time you did that, because you see yoga teachers and all sorts of other people will say, oh, yes, it's right in there somewhere. Well, yes. If you think of the Hindu chakra diagrams, where they show you all the different multi-petaled lotuses, and you get to the one of the third eye, you've got like 1,000 petals and whatever it is, all the different ones going down the chakra diagram. And you get to this one, the third eye, and it's just two. It's just a circle with two. Oh, I'll just recreate that with my fingers a minute. Hang on a minute. Two with a circle in the middle. What? Oh, two eye. Oh, it's two, because it's like the two petals. There they are, two petals. So it's not in there as much as in the light of being connected to your divinity at once. And it's your sphere. So let's go back to the medieval model, because look, you can see here on the screen, you've got your geocentric center. There they are, all the spheres. And there's your medieval model. That's the spheres. So the medieval cosmology, the perfect mental model, is being in a sphere. There it is. You're being in a sphere. You're in your orbs. And in astrology, we have the phrase, is it in orb? Well, it is. All the time. Something's in orb all the time. Right? So, so this one undivided, edgeless space that we're in, here it is, yeah? Now I want you to observe the edge of your field of vision. Try and find the edge. Can you find the edge? No, because the world moves with me, right? Where's that edge? I don't know. I've got no, no, I'm chasing it, but I can't get to it. But it's an orb. I'm in this window. I'm in a big famous window, like a fisheye or something, like a big space is an orb, a sphere in which I am observing everything. And everything's appearing. Everything's arising into it all the time, like a transit. Transits are movement are arising up into it all the time. So you can't directly look at the edge, but there's something vast behind it. There's something huge there, isn't there? I mean, it's like what? How big is that space? The whole universe fits inside it, right? I'm moving around the edge, and I'm like, hang on a minute, what's behind this? Oh, wow. I'm like, right, standing on the edge of the universe. Yeah. And this means I'm showing you how to create your reality. You can create anything you want out of this. So what I'm actually doing is vastly, deeply healing you tonight, because you don't have a past anymore. You're just in the present moment. That's pretty special. A lot of people dwell in the past too much. Yeah. And they go, oh God, I wish I hadn't done this and I wish I hadn't done that. And when you go to your awareness and your center point of just being you right now, you don't have a past anymore. You just have right here, right now. And you can plan your future from it. But there's nothing to worry about anymore, is there? Right? So where does it fade off? Where does it go to? The no thing. It goes to no thing. It goes to the no thing, because we're now here. Nowhere, now, here, no thing. but don't see it as negative. See it as vastness of ability to choose what you want to be at any time, right? And use your transits, use the movement of things coming into your sphere to choose what you want, right? Happiness is now your birthright. You found it. That's it. It's quite nice. It's nice to be here, by the way. I love I love astrology. And so you've got this single edgeless eye, this orb, this influence, this music of the spheres. Pythagoras' music of the spheres. You've got the medieval model that which you can see there in front of you, and it's got an edge to it. And all the spheres share that edge. So all 7 spheres are in that edge that you can't see, that you can't find. You can't go to the edge. So manifest what I'm trying to show you with the medieval model there is all the prima mobile, the crystalline heaven, the firmament, the fixed stars, the 7 movable planets, and everything is perfect beyond the sphere of the moon. And we are inside the sphere of the moon, which is constantly changing. The moon is the only planet that changes, which is why it shows us all these different phases and faces all the time. It's like, oh, stuck down here. It's perfect out there. Well, you can make it a lot more perfect by being in your orb, yeah, and then realizing what to let through. You know, just let your consciousness flow. And when you look at your chart and you look at your transits, it just becomes a beautiful, beautiful journey for understanding your weather. It's like a weather report, you know, because you're in the sky, because you're in the sky. And it's vast and it's wonderful. And so you can take this fresh look at yourself, you know, and it's, you know, all I can say really is, has humanity been overlooking something that's both obvious and wonderful? Well, you know, I believe it to be wonderful, you know. And so it's this edgeless, undivided space. It's a frameless, wide open window. And I call it the single eye. You know, it's not a human eye, it's God's eye. We're in the Creator's eye. This is the eye of creation. So the 7 days, in the Christian thing, we've got the Genesis, you know, 7 day. This is the creation. You can now create anything you wish out of this, right? It's the all-seeing eye of creation. Yeah. So when you look out through this eye, and now here's the thing, immediately, once this lecture's finished, you're just going to, it's natural to do it, we're just going to go straight back to third person consciousness. Of course, why not, right? Because the ego rules, right? Jungian psychology will tell you that, you know, but Jung, you know, we're just going to be like straight back into the ego and the persona and everything that we usually have. But you can choose at will. You can say, do you know what? I think I'm just going to walk. I'm going to have my first person space today. Just go this. Just do this. I'll just do this. That's all you have to do. I think I'll do first person space today. Cool. I'll go, you know, I'll go climb a nice hill, look at the view, right? Go on a country walk. I'll go to a beach, look at the horizon, and I'll just do this. There it is. Oh, wonderful. God's work, God's creating, you know, the creation. Oh, just go into creation mode. And when you're getting transits, you can now use the transits to empower yourself differently. So there we go. Now, what's next? I'm going to show you a bit more evidence as to why things are like they are, or, you know, so we went here, we've done 5 senses, we've done geocentric view, the Chaldean order of the planet. Now, all this is in my book. So please do read my book, because everything I've explained to you so far is in here. And I hope you enjoyed it so far. And if you do buy a copy of my book, I will give you a free astrology reading. And I'm going to base the astrology reading that I give you around this next picture, which is this, the 7 ages of man. Because I believe this is in Shakespeare's As You Like It. And it's also how you get to know yourself better. And it's all in this book. So this book describes this. My book is set out in this pattern, okay? So it's about getting to understand yourself. But we live in a fractal universe, you know, the idea that there's, you know, layer upon layer of things. So yeah, you'll see what I mean when you read the book. But each of the planets has its phase of time, and so I explain how to work coming from first person awareness. So you go into first person awareness, and then you can do the experiments in the book and do the exercises. And it's to enhance your enlightenment process, but also to make you more creative. Again, the tagline here is to release your creative genius. So it's releasing your creative genius into the world. And the book's only £15 on Amazon, so and you'll get a free reading. So please consider that I've hopefully entertained you sufficiently to tell you about my book tonight. Let's have a look at that for a minute. What happens when you look at a pool of water? It's nice and still. You just drop a drop into it. Yeah. Do you see the medieval model in the water? Well, I do. I see a beautiful ripple through time, because it's taking time. You put a drop in the center, and it takes time for it to move outwards, and it's ripples. So I see that as an example of the medieval model, like that. That's a feeling, yeah, or that's a bit of a moment of consciousness, and it lands, and it creates movement, yeah, through time. So in our human experience, we actually can see the medieval model in nature, because of course in the Greek philosophers and way back, Babylonians, Mesopotamians, Sumerians, they saw this, and they know that nature is in us. Nature is in us. And by the way, when you do this in the forest or do it wherever, you can actually communicate with animals. It's very shamanic. It's beautiful shamanism. It's the best, in fact. And you just instantly connect to, because all animals, you've got dogs, cats, things, they all come from this space already. Animals are in fact in that orb all the time. They are first person. They come from a first person awareness. When something comes into their orb, yeah, and influences them, they react. Think about it. If you've got a pet, you'll see what I mean. It's marvelous, right? And you can communicate with your pet beautifully as well because of it. It's just it's blissful, in fact. Might get on so well with my dog and cat now. We completely have just because I know they're first person. See, they do this first. That I say, oh, something's coming into your orb. No, they look at me. They don't speak back. Because they're animals. But you get the idea. You could do that with horses, cows, goats, sheep, whatever, right? Just enjoy it. I do it with crows. I take the dog for a walk in the park, and there's some crows. And I go, morning, crows. How's your first person today? Your first person words, you get the idea, So anyway, another form of the medieval model can be seen in trees. Yeah. So trees, of course, started as a sapling. Yeah. So they started a sapling at their center down here. They don't move, do they? A tree doesn't move. Yeah. Pure awareness that never moves. So it started as a sapling. Once the seed was planted in the ground, it put its root down. It started as a sapling and grew. And like astrology in our charts, it grows season after season after season of growth and deeper understanding of itself as it moves out through time. Yeah. And but that's awareness that doesn't move. Yeah. So it plants itself in the ground and doesn't move. But it grows in awareness and stature and deepening of experience through staying in one place. And what I've shown you tonight is the human version of staying in one place, because you stay in your space. It doesn't go. Once you found it, you found your space. You found your place in the space. And it's inner and outer combination of both. And it's very enlightening. So it's like the tree has its primary motion. That was its primary motion. But it doesn't get affected by it. Transits do not affect its. You get the idea. Spiders' webs. Yeah. So a spider spins a web, right? And it then sits on the edge, doesn't it? It doesn't move, right? It's pure awareness, right? It's created this whole web of awareness, and it doesn't move. It sits there waiting for something to move it. Something flies into it, and suddenly its consciousness goes ping, and it activates. Otherwise, it just creates this awareness space. So it creates a space of awareness, sits on the edge of it, looking back into its center. And then something lands in it, wobbles it, and off it goes. Does its purpose, which is purpose. What's its purpose? Well, purpose is to survive as a spider. But it paints a nice medieval model, don't you think? You know, beautiful, right? And look how the moon, with the dew of the moon, yeah, the sublunar sphere highlights it for us. You know, little spheres and orbs of water, which is emotion and feeling in astrology. You know, I mean, it's just so much going on there. This is mystical. Yeah, well, you know, I mean, ancient people understood it all. You know, so here we have this is a national park in Australia with the Aboriginal guide, but as you can see there's your medieval model, basically. You know, they're basically saying, yes, there's the center, and outwards, everything moves outwards from the center. So in there, you can see water ripples, you can see tree rings, you can see spiders' webs, but you can also see the geocentric medieval model that I showed you earlier. Yeah, and the seven spheres, all on the edge of our awareness. So all these ancient people, they all had this beautiful orb of awareness around their edge. Okay. So, and that's part of the human experience. It's what we get. So we've always had it. And we've been missing it as astrologers, you see. We've been doing third person awareness a lot. You know. And if we do first person awareness with astrology and then add the third person awareness, well, you know. Hopi and Navajo, yeah, pictures. If that's not a medieval model, you know, and that one, you know, they both are, aren't they? What I like is the fact that they've got these rays coming off the top of their heads, yeah, and that's like the medieval model flipped over on its side, isn't it? It's like taking a medieval model, imagine it, and then flipping it up and wearing it. You can see the rings, yeah, like marked out, yeah. This is why they consider bulls and bison and cows as sacred, because they've got these things coming out with the medieval. They're kind of time-based extensions, if you like, in a way. They see that what? Right? Okay, I'm probably going a bit too far there, but you get the idea. What I also like about this one particularly is this chap here, and this is he's doing his third eye. That's I call that the third eye opening, right? Because remember we did this, and then we did this, and then we went here, and we're here. Here we are. And what's he doing there? He's going, I've got my orb wide open. I'm wide open to the world. Here's my orb, and it's wide open. And he's opened his arms out to say, right around the edges, that orb never, you know, it's there. So everyone had it all the time. Right? They've always, all the ancient cultures, civilizations, they've all got this mystical what I call the medieval model, the geocentric universe. Okay, it can be seen throughout humanity's evolution and human history. Okay. And then we've got wonderful cup and ring marks. I mean, good Lord, you know, they still say today, what are these about? Say the archaeologists, well, I say I stand at my center and I look outwards and I see different vastness of the space around me. So sometimes you can go, because there are lots of these in Scotland, aren't there? You know, but you can say, oh, I'll stand in my center space and look at the view from here. I can look across the glen. I can look at those mountains. I can look at that sky. And so they carved it as a space that they could observe the world from. I would like to suggest you stand in your geocentric cup and mark ring space and say, it's pretty nice here. Right? Okay. So cup and ring marks, you know, megalithic, yeah, is the idea of what am I observing, you know, center to center, you know, what's going on. I say that's the medieval model. Or, you know, I keep calling it the medieval model because it's more than that. Aristotle's cosmology, more than that, megalithic geocentricity. Newgrange, yeah, I mean, here they are, beautiful rings, and spirals. And of course, spirals because they keep coming back. We have experiences that keep coming back. And each time, as we grow into ourselves, we grow into the returning to what happened before, but with deeper knowledge and wisdom. So the first person awareness is always there. It's our soul, and it's infinite and immortal. The awareness is immortal, it's immortality. But the third person consciousness that develops and grows keeps bringing us back transits that happen again and again, and we get the experience from that. So we develop our experience from that. It's all in here. Please read. But you get the idea. And labyrinths, same principle. To get into one center, you know, you can move through the spheres. Chartra, which is pilgrimage. So my belief about pilgrimage is that the ancient pilgrims used to go first person awareness. So they'd follow the pilgrim path to the sacred places, and they'd specifically attempt to live first person awareness while they did them, rather than third person consciousness, which is you see, a human being is to be aware, to be in your awareness, in your space. A human doing is to do your third person consciousness, which is very busy this, busy that. Human doings and human beings. When you do a pilgrimage, you do a human being, because you walk step by step on the path, staying as much as you can in your orb of first personness, and that then takes you closer and closer to the sacred place. Okay, so I believe the Chartra's labyrinth is all linked to that. And then we finally come to this wonderful thing of going, hang on a minute now, let's talk about the unmoved mover of the world. So when I'm driving in my car, am I actually moving? Well, I'm sat in a seat driving in my car. So I'm not technically moving, but actually what's happening is the world is moving through me. And that is the principle of transits, because the world moves through you when you stay still. If I sit on a bus, if I sit on a tube train, say I go to London, I'm sitting on a tube train in the underground, and I get on the train, the doors close, and I sit in a seat. And I'm not moving. But what happens is the next station appears within me. Something appears within me because I haven't moved. I sat down and I didn't go anywhere. So something to enjoy being in that first person space. And it's beautiful to do, by the way. It's quite incredible. It's so enlightening just to enjoy watching the world fly past you. Doing like on a bus as well. You can be on a bus. You look out the window. The world is moving through you because you're not going anywhere. Right? But you can also actually do it just walking normally, because you can walk along, so you are moving, but the world moves through you, through your orb, through your space. Beautiful experience. And again, this is like power of transits. Transits coming closer and closer and closer till they're right with you. Yeah. And then they move away again. Have you seen this? I'm speeding up a little bit now because I want to get to do some bits of astrology with you. Well, not, you know, I mean, I get the idea. I mean, what I'm doing is astrological, but so this was in the British Museum. They had a big exhibition last year, and as you can see, it's like it's kind of like an orb. It's a view on the world, isn't it? I've just shown you all this stuff, you know, and you can see there's a sun and a moon. Yeah, I mean, there's obviously the moon. There's the sun. This is the Pleiades. This in the British Museum, I went to see this in the exhibition museum. This is called the handholds. This one here and that one there that's missing, that one. But they're actually handhold. They're called the handholds, right? Well, the world is within me, folks, right? So what's ancient man saying by that? Is he saying that the world was within him? Yeah, well, he is, right? And down here, the archaeologists have called this the boat. Yeah. Well, let me show you the boat for a minute, right? We've done the orb like this, but now look down, just look down like that, and you'll see that it ends. You can't see your chin, can't see my own chin, yeah? But there's a kind of curved bottom boat. And that, in a traditional astrology, we are told the ascendant or the rising sign is called the helmsman that guides you through life. The rising sign, helmsman. You've heard that in traditional astrology, I'm sure. So the helmsman is the orb, right? It's this. So your helmsman is the part of your chart that's guiding you through things, like on a ship, yeah. So or a barge, or I'm thinking oars here. And you can look at the world with the sun and the moon in it, the luminaries, the lights of the world. And what does this associate with? I hope you've seen this image before. I hope you know what I'm talking about. Maybe I just need to show you this, actually. That's the book from the British Museum. British Museum, The World of Stonehenge, and this. Okay, just so you know, a big book. I mean, it was a massive exhibition, and it was really interesting. And I did this exhibition with regards to seeing everything geocentrically, because I went in there geocentrically. It blew my mind. I mean, oh, seriously. I was like, oh wow. So anyway, so here we have the two lights of the sky, yeah, and inside the orb. And that leads me then to the thing in traditional astrology. The key chart in traditional astrology is the Thema Mundi. The Thema Mundi. And what do we have here? We have the moon and the sun as the two lights that lead the chart with the ascendant. Yeah, so the primary motion goes to the two lights, the two luminaries. And in ancient astrology, they say that the sun rules the left and the moon rules the right eye. Yeah, because there are 7 orifices, 7 entries into the head. So there's 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, and a mouth. That's 7 things in 7 traditional planets. And here are the ones for the sun and the moon, the lights going in. So Thema Mundi, the world theme, is the mythical horoscope in Hellenistic astrology to show the supposed positions of the 7 visible planets, including the sun and moon, at the beginning of the universe. The ascendant is our awareness. The moon rules the left eye, the sun rules the right eye, and the other planets' reflected light stretch out in order on both sides of the luminaries, which is the medieval model again, because you have the order of the planets. Now, again, Mercury, Venus, you get the idea. Okay, so this is the 2 lights, yeah? The 2 lights is the Thema Mundi. And if you go back that to ancient man knew that as the 2 lights, yeah, sun and the moon. And that goes back to the idea of the lights. So, okay. William Lilly, I do believe, knew this very well. As thou daily conversest with the heavens being the geocentric universe, so instruct and form thy mind according to the image of divinity. It's a wonderful quote, isn't it, when you think about it? And that's from the letter to the student of astrology in the front of Christian astrology. As thou daily conversest with the heavens, as you talk about to the heavens in your own consciousness, so instruct and form your mind according to the image of what you want. This is your creation. You create your own life. Create your own life. So saith William Lilly. I love that. I think that was when I saw this, and I just saw that, and I was just like, oh, hang on a minute. Yeah, rather good. And then, of course, after Lilly, Newton, Lilly died 1681. Newton published just before he died, or around about, I think, 7 years after he died. Yeah. So there we go. Now, just a few more interesting bits and pieces. Oh, yes, I want to say, actually, another thing, a good thing with astrology. But I'll leave this up for a minute because, as you can see already, hopefully your consciousness is already going, oh, what's he about to say? Oh, yes, can you see it already? Haha. Well, I don't know. I'm about to tell you something. But one of the things I really love in astrology is that interesting thing where they call the void of course. Yeah, the void of course moon is when the moon's moving from one sign to another and it's not making any more aspects. And what are you meant to do in the void of course moon? Well, you're meant to be meditative and chilled and not really doing anything. Okay, until the moon goes to 0 degrees of the next sign or enters the next sign. So now I've shown you tonight the orb, this whole thing, the single eye, the orb, the void, yeah, that is vast behind the great window, right? So you've got the window on the world that we have the window on the world, and then we have behind the void, out of which everything can flow. So you want to start making references to Jung if you like, but you know what I'm talking about. It's the unconscious, but it's everything flowing through around the edges into our world, which is like transits and progressions and these different things. And but basically, the void of course moon. So this is the sunya in Hinduism, which is the empty, the great emptiness, because it is, in fact, we are the void. We are, in fact, the great space. We are the great space that is filled with nothing and filled with everything. And the Arabs invented. Now, I'm not fully researched on this yet, but I do believe the Arabs invented the number 0. They invented the 0, and the 0 is given a symbol like an O because it's the great nothing. It's the great empty, yeah, which is the space out of which comes numbers, which is measurement. So 0 is nothing because it actually indicates in the number system that it's the no thing. There's nothing there. It's the 0. It's the beginning. It's pure awareness. Pure awareness contains everything. 0. And then you have numbers moving forwards from that point, which is measurement. So every time a planet goes into a new zodiac sign, it goes to the awareness point, the pure awareness, from which consciousness then grows to the point that it gets to 29 of the next, for the next O occurs. So what we're doing is the astrology chart shows us how we move through different phases of light, the light coming into the orb, right? So it shows us all the different phases of light as we go through the year. So we have 12 zodiac signs and so forth. So it's the numerical divisions and measurement of light, which is the 4 seasons, which is the modalities, which is you get the idea. So I'm showing you the keying in the techniques that will be, I'm going to be putting all this into books 2 and 3, which are about to get published anyway. So I'm really hoping that someone might even invite me to a conference soon so I can explain it in more detail. Maybe, if I'm lucky. So here is the Dendera zodiac from Egypt. The Dendera zodiac is, of course, the Egyptians' view of their world, and they're looking at the night sky, and it's a big orb. It's a big round orb around the edge, and all around the edge, they're supporting it with their hands. So they're holding up their orbs. What have we been doing tonight? When you do this, you're holding up your orb, right? You can do it now. You can hold up the edge. You're holding up your edge, aren't you? Yeah, where your light comes in. Where does my light come from? Oh, it's here. I just remember the edges because I remember the void behind, the vastness of infinity, of being, of awareness is behind me. Or it's in me, or it's of me, or it's part of me, or I'm in it. The outer space and the inner space. But then I find the edge, and there it is, and I'll worship that because that's beautiful. That is. When I find the edge, I'm like, oh yeah, wow, amazing. So I'm just going to go, oh, wonderful light, because I'm on the edge, right? All the deities that appeared, said the Egypts. Look at these amazing, this amazing creation that we're in. Isn't it far out? Yes, it is really far out. And here, holding the Dendera zodiac up, is Horus, who is the falcon god. Yeah. So it's got and he's holding up the thing, or the god Horus is supporting the orb. Now, why? This is one example. Why did the Egyptians have Horus? Yeah. Well, there it is. It's a falcon. Now, what do falcons do? When you look at, if you observe a falcon's flight, if you're standing on Earth and you're looking up at the falcon, what does it do? It flies in circles, round and round in circles, because it's first person awareness. So it's actually taking in its scope of its own orb. And anything that comes into its orb, anything it sees in its orb, that's when it's in hunting mode, right? To go and get that. So it'll go and get whatever comes into its orb. So it circles around and around, and it moves because it can move its orb with it, its awareness, and waiting for something to activate its consciousness, and then it will dive down to go and fetch it. So that's what the Egyptians were doing with Horus. They were saying, well, we've got orbs as well. So because we've also experienced an orb, then maybe we can learn one or two things from Horus, the falcon. So we'll have a deity, something in our orb, you know, we'll say, well, we've got that as well. So we'll create our own little deity. Yeah, and not little. We'll create our own deity, you know, and here's Horus. And there's the orb above Horus's head. That's the orb of everything. That's its big infinity, yeah, that we are in as well, right? And then we have all the different layers of movement, which is like the 7 layers of consciousness. It's like the geocentric model stretching out around it, yeah. Now, Egyptologists might say, oh, God, honestly, how can you say that? It meant this, it meant that. I'm only coming from intuition, and I'm not an Egyptologist, and I don't have a PhD in Egypt studies or anything like that. I'm just an astrologer who's used intuition, okay? So, yes, I'm waiting to be shot down in flames, but I believe it to be that, and it certainly ticks all my boxes, okay? And particularly when I look at that top little left one there, and look what he's doing, worshipping the light of the stars. Yeah, is that a star? I think that is a star, right? And he's holding an orb up to it. He's going, hello. Yeah. So to me, that is, you know, there's, you know, to me, that's what I see it. And the Ankh symbol, this symbol here, yeah, is of course that's the orb, because you're holding your hands out, right? Is the Ankh, you know, with the big O, the big nothing, the big Z, the big emptiness is there, which is a spiritual thing, which is also again like Eye of Horus as well. What are these guys doing? What are they doing? Anybody tell me? They're pointing at their own heads, pointing at the space they're pointing at the space they're looking out of. Yeah. Of course, archaeologists will tell us, well, they're pointing at their mouths because they're hungry. That's the official answer. But I think not. I think they're pointing at their space, because they're also, if they're pointing, if it could be said they're pointing at their mouths, they're pointing at the void in which they put things. Right? So, which is what it, like my pets, you know, I look at, you know, they just go, ah. It's like I'm getting too cosmic, but you get the idea. In ancient Egypt, they're pointing at their own space. And here's some very good examples of it. Yeah. And this is the orbs. And this is this is like the geocentric model. You can see layers. Yeah. This is like, I mean, this is the heavenly host or something. This kind of spirally horns coming in. I mean, this is like explanations of the imagination. This is the imagination. This is ancient Egyptian imagination in action, as preserved by what they own experience, you know. So to me, that's you know, that's how I see it anyway. You know, they're all pointing at their faces. Here's another one where you've got the Ptolemaic. It's a Ptolemaic picture, and you've got the signs of the zodiac flowing up around here and down the other sides, and then you have the boat here that I was talking about earlier, and inside the boat there's an orb, and you can see eyes of Horus inside the boats and the orbs. And then here's the Eye of Horus here inside an orb. He's doing some sort of worship there. You've got Thoth, which is based on the bird called an ibis. Now the ibis sits in the Nile River, or stands in the Nile River with its long beak, and it pecks the water. And where it pecks the water, it creates ripples. So it creates concentricity or rings. So I believe that Thoth was pointing and pecking and the Egyptians saw that, and they saw the ripples, the concentric rings, and that's a thought. So the ibis had a thought to find something in the Nile, in the river, pink, and it would create ripples. So again, it's the idea of nature creating its own reality. And here again, a stacked kind of, it's just a single eye of awareness. So some other ideas. And then
that's our last 5 minutes, Julian. Just like
thank you. Okay, so there we go, and that's the Egyptian again, showing the idea of the orb. One more here. We've got this is Islamic, I believe. So here's someone holding up their orb, and you've got I think these are the 4 elements surrounding them. So you've got like a sort of like the mirror of awareness, shall we say, with the orb at the center, looking very happy, I might add. And then we have again Macrobius here. This is a medieval. This is a sort of ancient Britain. They're holding up the spheres, and they're holding it up with their hands. They're doing this. They're holding up their orb, as you can see, all around the edges here. They're holding that up, and then we get to Roman, beautiful mosaic. And I need to actually remember where this is. I think I'm not quite sure which country it's in, so I need to go and find out. But here you have the signs of the zodiac, and here he's got a halo, which is the orb I've shown you today. So when you go into churches, and you go into churches and you see all those stained glass windows with the orbs, the halos, that's what I've been showing you today, right? This is the halo. Saints, and mystics and things, they all have a halo. So here he is holding up his hand to show he's got an edge. His hand touches the edge. He's touching the edge of the zodiac signs, which is the secondary motion. He is in primary motion, so he's holding an orb, and it's got a cross in it, which is the 4 angles. So it's a Roman representation of light, and you can see a star here, but he's holding this orb of light. So he's showing he's in primary motion. He's got his orb or halo around him, and he's touching the edge of the secondary motion, which is the planets in the zodiac. And it's the movement of time, is the spiraling nature of these. They're all got the bigger sunyas, that around. Get the idea. I believe that when you look at ancient imagery and art, and they've got big eyes, particularly Sumerians and the Mesopotamian art, they've got big eyes. It means that they're in their first-person awareness space. And so here we've got some first-person awareness. They've got orbs and beams of light coming around, and their eyes are big because they're in that big space. They're in that infinity space. So in art, going back over time, then you have Shiva, of course, dancing Nataraj. I mean, this is just huge in Hindu religion. And so Shiva dances in front of his orb, his void. So he's dancing in front of the void. This is the orb of creation. It's the creation and destruction. So it's the orb of what Shiva does. I've actually got a Shiva here. Hang on. So here's the good Shiva here, and he's actually in front of it. So he's in front of it. He's actually doing third-person awareness. So he's third person. He's living in his chart, as it were, being his ego. But then behind, just at the edge, is the great void of space around him. And I do really, honestly, truly believe that astrologers need to be adopting this. We need to see this as a new way of looking at astrology. This is why I've talked to you about Pluto and Aquarius. This is all pre-Pluto and Aquarius. If we can adopt this new thing, we'll have a wonderful way of looking at charts and being very happy, because I think astrology has gotten very fearful and has gotten a very weak sense of hope, particularly over this last, say, 20 odd years, the internet and various things. And astrology has been vastly weakened by things like the internet. And we need to recognize we have to save it before it gets completely AI'd and various things. We've got to take a whole new approach. And so we need to have a very spiritual approach. And as you can see there, she was in front of the orb. It's microcosm and macrocosm. We're in the middle. We can go right down to the particles, atoms, molecules, and cells. They all have planetary shape and order. Then we have the human, Earth, solar system, galaxy. It's just a different way of looking at the space that we are in. And there is the space we are in again. Between our hands is everything, right? Is the space that we are in. And behind us is this huge, I'm not sure what it is. It's the great mystery. It's the greatest mystery of all. But you can be very happy to place yourself in front of it, third person, first person, or ways to choose to go into divine creation, to be at one with the creation, and to let things manifest into your life. This is I think it's actually in Carnac in France, but here is the great void, and outside is all the movement of consciousness moving outwards. It's just an example, again, the spiraling of time, but that's the sort of Neolithic understanding, again represented for us. And in Japan we have Zen, so just finding your center space at the center, and again, finding that calm center. So everything I've shown you today is available. It's all Zen techniques. It's all Buddhism. It's all Hinduism. I've just given it for a Western overview by reintroducing you to what we are missing. We're missing something in the West, and it's about time we got it back, because it will make us a real happy to do so. And so find your still calm center, your awareness. Do some meditation, follow your breath, exactly, do Buddhist meditation, but if you add the techniques I've shown you today, you get a surefire way to getting, it's a very quick, instant way of enlightenment. And then discipline your mind with Buddhist meditation, with mindfulness. Do mindfulness practice, breathing in through the nose. When you breathe in through the nose, see yourself in the orb, and oh golly gosh, you'll have a lovely day, week, month, year, lifetime. Shakespeare describes the poet's eye, just very quickly. I've just got two more to do. Mm-hmm. Shakespeare describes the poet's eye as glancing from heaven to from earth to heaven, and as imagination bodies forth the form of things unknown, the poet's pen turns into shapes and gives to airy nothing a local habitation and a name. Now, I mean, the Globe Theatre, of course, if you go to the Globe, you've got a zodiac on the ceiling above the stage. This is a zodiac, in case you didn't know. Did you know that? I hope you do. You do now. That's a painted zodiac. And at the background, behind the stage, there are 7 big archetypal planetary backdrops. You need to go and have the tour of the Globe to see them. But behind the musicians' orchestra here, there are actually 7 planets, characters, archetypal characters. And Shakespeare called his city the Globe because it's a globe. And we're looking through the circular ceiling at the sky when you go to the Globe. Marvelous, eh? And it's just beautiful. Glance from heaven to earth and earth to heaven. Imagine bodies forth. And one more, prologue to Henry V. Oh, for a muse of fire. Here's the fiery edge. Yeah, the 4th element, the fire. That would ascend. Fire moves upwards and outwards. It ascends to the brightest heavens of invention. Oh, yes, please. A kingdom for a stage. Wonderful. Princes to act, and monarchs to behold the swelling scene. It's constantly growing. Your quantum choices, in New Age speak, is to be like Shakespeare. A kingdom for a stage. Be your own king, queen, kingdom, prince, whatever you want to be, your monarch, to behold your swelling scene. This is your swelling scene, and it's constantly pushing you outwards into the world, and it's beautiful. So there you go. So this Shakespeare quote highlights the impact the medieval model had on literature and art. There it is one more time. Poets and other artists depicted these things because their minds loved to dwell on them. And that, my friends, is loving to dwell on this model. Do it with your astrology and you won't go wrong. It's fabulous. It's wonderful. Enjoy the weather of the clouds or the storms or the sunny days or the wind or the rain or whatever as your transits, as it moves through your orb of space around you, orbs of influence. And so, this is the model that is, if it was universally accepted as this one, it is imaginable and satisfying to the imagination. And then my question to you is, can you now also attain the highest peaks of creativity and imagination? And that, my friends, is, pretty much it. There we go.
Thank you very much, Julian. That was a lovely presentation. really, really love those images you showed us. And certainly have given us some food for thought as well. I can just see us all wandering about though tomorrow going like this, wherever we are.
Yeah. Oh, that's it. Sorry, I'm just looking at the comments now. The Nebra Sky Disc. Yeah, that's what it's called. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I went to see it. I actually saw it in the British Museum. I did the exhibition. Amazing. And so thank you. Yeah. And really do please, if you buy my book and leave me a really nice review. I mean, 5 stars, maybe 4 stars, whatever, nice reviews, please. And then write to me via my website saying you left the review, and I can read the review on Amazon. I will give you a free reading. And in the reading, we'll be showing you the divine order in your chart. Okay. So there we go. And if anybody wants me to do workshops, this makes a great workshop. Okay. Yoga retreats, anything, it all works. You can make it a 7-day retreat. It's all in the book. You can make it a 7-day retreat. Because you can do one planet a day, because like today is like, so it's Moon Day, Sunday, Saturn Day, so you can work through the planets on so if anybody wants to sort things out, like, welcome to anybody inviting me to do retreats, divine order retreats, combined with yoga, meditation, anything you want, Tai Chi, whatever, Qigong, anything. It all works. Everything works with it. And or workshops or lessons, I'll teach it, anything you like. So please just get me more involved. Just ask me to do things and I do them.
Fabulous.
Just tell people about it, So
thank you so much. I've put a link to Julian's website in the comments, and I've also put a link to the book on Amazon. And it was also, both of these links were in your email as well. So if people are having to leave now, so if you don't have time to pick it up from the comments just now, it's on your it's on your email, original email.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much indeed. And I hope I can come and talk to you again soon,